Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the Woke Bros. Of course, I'm your co-host, Big Wos, and finally back from his siesta in Madrid. My guy and yours, Nando Vila, on the west side of Los Angeles. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I'm sorry I missed a couple shows. I was traveling to the other side of the world, and then I got COVID, dude. I got COVID in
Yeah.
Spain. COVID's still a thing, dude. Watch out for it. I got it. It was pretty bad,
Mm.
but I survived. I listened to your episode with Ben. That was fun stuff, man. You were fired up in that episode. You were fired up in a
Yeah,
way that you
yeah.
weren't. Yeah,
I
you got
it's one
fucking
of those
heated, dude.
things. It's one of those things. These New York City things can can drive me crazy at times, especially when it comes to online discourse. And just not to harp on that, like, because anybody who listens to that know, like, I'm not dissing Emma or anybody at Majority. That's my family. I love those people. But like, a part of it for me is like these like delicate ways of talking about New York City, which is one of the most indelicate places in the fucking country. Is just like, it just makes my brain want to explode. It's just like, bruh, like, y'all live in New York. Like, if you don't live in New York, you might not understand, but like, it's a fucking insane place. So to be like, no, and this and that, like, you can't survive on that shit out there. You'll get eaten alive, man. And so, yeah, that's why I was pretty fired up. But today's topic actually has me pretty fired up too, man. We're going to get into Manchester City, unfortunately, Fernando defeating his side, demolishing them really in the Champions League semifinal. I want to get into that at the end of the show. We're going to finally get into soccer corner at some point here. But the stuff that's dominating the news right now, obviously, Nando, is the debt ceiling, quote unquote, showdown between Joe Biden and the House Republicans, Kevin McCarthy and his band of fucking misfits. I'm not gonna lie, I've ignored this thing mostly because I'm like, don't we do this every year now? Like, don't we end up just raising this thing? Like, they do this whole, play chicken, gun to your head, blah, 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 and then we just raise it. Like, it's stupid that we're doing it this way. Like, there's gotta be a smarter way to run our government and blah, 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 blah. But like, I'm completely ignoring this thing, but you actually brought to my attention there's something different going on this time in the way that Biden actually is being a cuck and wants to capitulate to these GOP idiots who have no leverage. They have they don't have a leg to stand on here. And just to sort of summarize this thing for people, we need the votes to agree to raise the debt ceiling limit so that we could pay our bills. And again, these are bills we've already accrued. This is not future spending. This is not blah. These are things that we've already, as a country, agreed to pay for. That's key in noting there. Like, this is not like, like we're piling on pork and blah, blah, blah. No. Like, we've already decided, and we're paying for this stuff. Like, this is from the past. This is stuff that we owed. It's not new expenses we're incurring. And so the GOP is like, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna force a default unless you cut spending in the future elsewhere. And here's why this is stupid. And Nando can get into why Joe Biden is an idiot for even considering a capitulation here. They're trying to frame this as this is regular government horse racing, horse trading thing. Like, you get something, I get something, and blah, blah, blah. But that's not what this is. This isn't the Democrats getting something. This is bills being allocated, resources being allocated to things that Republicans and Democrats agreed to pay for in the past. This isn't some Democratic debt ceiling lift. It's both of their thing. So this thing that we're already supposed to be doing cannot be used as a negotiation from the Republicans to get. It doesn't make sense. You can't get more from something we're already supposed to be doing. If you want to negotiate about slashing things to this, bring up a bill, let's negotiate on it, and let's do it that way. This is obscene.
But so the thing is, the problem is that the GOP does have leverage. right? And the thing is that the leverage that they have is that they're willing to tank the global economy to get what they want, right? I mean, it's a game of chicken, really, because I mean, no, it's never happened. The United States has never defaulted on their debts, and it's kind of like if you default on your loans and you get dinged on your credit score, right? Like that's the issue. And what the problem is, if the United States, which is the issuer of the currency
of the world,
sustains the entire global economy, like if the United States fucking defaults and gets their credit rating lowered as a result, it could throw like all financial markets and the world economy into an absolute tailspin. No one really knows exactly how it would happen because it's never happened before, but like, I don't know, economists say that it would be like absolutely devastating. So the GOP sees that and they're like, great, we're down to do that, and then the Democrats are like, we're not down to do that. And then the GOP is like, okay, well, we're going to make you do all these insane things. Like, I just want to read just a few things, like just a few little stats that that the GOP wants to do. For example, if they got their way on the debt ceiling, 200,000 children would be kicked off of Head Start. Just 200,000 kids, just to get like some anti-poverty. 640,000 families lose rental assistance. 430,000 families face eviction. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, we'll kick 500,000 people out of their homes, which is fucking an insane amount of people to do in one fell swoop in order to get what they want. Now, the problem is that the Democrats, it's not so much the issue in this current debt ceiling fight, right? Although obviously that's where we are. The problem is that when the Republicans are in power, like when Trump was in power, they raise the debt ceiling because the Democrats aren't willing to play hardball as well. You know what I mean? Like the Republicans know that when they control the House and there's a Democratic president, if they threaten to withhold the debt ceiling raise, the person who's going to get blamed is Joe Biden. You know what I mean? So they see that, they're like, great, we can just fucking tank Joe Biden. You know what I mean? Whereas the Democrats, when the Republicans are in power, they don't do that. They don't, because the Democrats controlled the Congress during Trump, and they could have withheld their debt ceiling vote, and Trump would have fucking panicked and given them whatever they wanted. You know what I mean? So like it isn't equivalent in that sense. And what the Democrats are talking about is just completely, going down the drain. And the thing is, they could essentially just raise the debt ceiling without asking the Republicans.
Yeah, they
could just do it by executive authority, and then dare them to make a Supreme Court challenge or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and then see what happens. You know what I mean? And then and the thing is, like, if the Supreme Court did even rule it unconstitutional,
and then we delegitimize their asses.
Then be like, no, fuck you, I don't give a shit. There's no like, what is the Supreme Court going to send the fucking police to arrest the president? Like, that's not. They can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, the president can ignore these things if they wanted to. Instead, what they're going to do is kick 500,000 people out of their homes.
Just incredible. And there's no sign that Joe Biden and them are going to have the stones to do something about this. And just like, and here's the thing, it's just so funny. Like the times that these people pretend to care about parliamentary, norms and the government, and this is what we do here. Whereas like Donald Trump would just come out and be like, these sicko Democrats are trying to kick my people out? Hell no, it's not happening. I'm stepping up. And it's not going to happen to my people. These people are insane. They're crazy. Go check the track record. It's never happened before. I'm stepping up. I'm not letting them do this. And you know what I mean? And matter of fact, I'm campaigning on this. Remember that time these psychos tried to do this in order to kick starving babies off a SNAP and all of this other stuff? Step up to the plate and be like, sue me. Take me to court. And again, the Supreme Court, you can be laid bare, motherfuckers. Like, you guys wanted to tank the global economy. But again, that's a secondary sort of concern than actual Americans who tomorrow will be fucked by it. Like, the next day will be fucked up by it. Whereas, the global economy and the way that it spins and whatever, like, eventually will be fucked, but it's not going to be immediate. Whereas like, yo, like actual people in our country will be affected. But again, like Joe Biden would never come out and be a strong man that way. Like he just wouldn't, where the Republicans just do it all the time. Who did Trump consult with when he did the Muslim ban? He just, fuck it. Muslims ain't allowed in this fucking country no more. All right, cool.
Well, but not a more salient example would be like, you know, the Fed chair is a guy named Jerome Powell, who was the same guy that when Trump was there. Jerome Powell, during the Biden presidency, has raised interest rates like 4 or 5 times, which has basically harmed the Biden economy, for lack of a better term. I mean, look at fucking Silicon Valley. It's all fucking going down the drain. Mm-hmm. Hollywood, it's like people are being laid off like crazy. That's a direct result of the increase in interest rates. Trump has said publicly, and he's right about this, that Powell didn't raise the interest rates while he was president because he told him, I'll fire you if you do that. The president can fire the Fed chair. You know, he can do it. It's just that Biden won't do it because it's just not done. Like, it's just not, you're not supposed to, but there's no law that says you can't do it.
Bro,
you know, it's not illegal.
Trump fired that FBI guy? Like, Trump was just firing people. He's just like, fuck you. I don't care how it looks. I don't like you. This is my presidency. If it's within my right to do it, I do it. Period. I remember people like, oh, the FBI is investigating him. The DOJ, and he can't just fire Rubenstein, or what was the little dorky dude in the DOJ? He can't just do that. That's just tantamount to corruption. And it happened, and guess what? Nothing happened. Nothing fucking happened. Everybody just moved on. It's just absurd. Well,
no, it's just like what the big in politics is that
because I told him I'd fire his ass.
Yes, he said that. And he's ready.
But guess what, Nando? That's why people like Trump. That's what they like him for. He's a doer. That's what they like him for, bro. Even if you could say, oh, it's bullshit. He didn't really build a wall and he didn't really do this or blah, 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 blah. But he did a whole bunch of other shit. Like I said, the Muslim ban, motherfuckers was like, yeah, he told Muslims not to come back into the country. Eventually, of course, the law had to whatever and blah, blah, blah. But like, he would just come out and do shit. Like the idea that Joe Biden would actually just sit on his hands and be like, oh, you guys are being bad, so I'm just going to give you the candy anyway. Like, nah, kid, I'm taking my belt and I'm whooping your ass, boy. Sorry, I'm taking you to the woodshed, kid.
That's what I was going to say is like the big one of the big imbalances, and this is in American politics, and it's like, this is like the most bare example of it, is that Democrats still follow something called norms, which is basically just how things have always been done, which is there's no law, there's no nothing, there's no, it's just norms. It's this vague thing called norms. Should societies follow norms? Yes. But we're in a situation where we have two parties, and one of the parties says, fuck the norms. I'm just going to
make new norms.
I'm just going to go up to the edge of what the law allows and sometimes even go beyond it. But like, I'm towing that, I'm on the edge. Democrats don't even go there. They just like, if there's a big norm that they can't violate, then it doesn't take them to the edge of the law. They won't even do it. So Republicans just have a huge leg up in any kind of standoff and negotiation. Is like they're willing to do shit that just isn't done, and that's fine. And they're just willing to make up new norms. The Democrats are just like, oh no, but like Tip O'Neill didn't do this in 1985.
Bro, Nando, we're talking about the debt ceiling. It's never been done this way before.
Yeah,
there was a norm, and the Republicans said we're making a new norm. When we're in power, and there's a Democrat in power,
until we extract concessions.
Fuck you guys. Fuck it. This
Democrats
is the new
don't do that.
Now. They don't. They refuse to. And again, this is not there's no law in place. There's no they're just doing what's in the toolkit to be used. And that's the difference between these cats, man. Like they will do every single dirty tactic that there is because it's like, fuck it. It's what we got. We're not in the seat of the presidency. We don't have the Senate. This is what we got. And this is how we could cut social spending. And that, by the way, that's what this is in service of. That's the sad truth about it. And Joe Biden won't, these motherfuckers won't even come out and attack them on the merits. Like, at least if they were doing that, to be like, bro, the shit that they're fighting for is good for who? It's good for a few fat cats and nobody else. Like, they won't even come out and attack it on the merits, which makes me think like they don't want this shit anyway.
Yeah.
Because because instead of fighting for some idea of norms that Americans have demonstrated they don't give a fuck, they elected Donald Trump. They don't care about your established Washingtonian ass norms, bro. Like, nobody cares about these institutional norms. Nobody. We elected Donald Trump once. We damn near did it again, twice. That's the sort of like lack of humbling that the Democrats
and we may do it again.
Have. And we may do it again. But yet y'all want to fight on the concept of norms instead of just attacking what it is they actually want in the first place, which you could actually reach people behind. To be like, okay, here's the thing that these people are willing to crash the economy for, so that like 40 dudes' lives can be better. Yeah. Period. Like, they won't even make that case. That's the most pathetic part about these fools.
No, the only thing they can do, like, did you talk about it in any episode that I was gone? Like the backlash to the CNN town hall with Trump.
I didn't watch the town hall. I didn't watch it
either. I didn't watch it either. But like, there was this huge kind of liberal backlash to it. Like, people are like unsubscribing from CNN, and they're like, CNN, how could you do this? And
for what?
And, blah, blah, blah. And they're making the same mistake they've always done with Trump, which is like they blame the media's coverage of Trump for his rise and for his power. And the only thing that they're doing by reacting that way is giving him more power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're turning him into this magical being that can't even be exposed to people, can't even be like put on a fucking television network.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that you
if
can't
people
even,
see
like,
him on TV, they can't be convinced that he's not great.
Exactly. Like, and they can't figure out like what, how do you find some sort of other, some sort of counterbalance to that? Like, their only response is like, how dare you, CNN, platform a guy who was the president and is running for president? Like, what? It's completely legitimate news. It's a completely legitimate news issue.
And he's the guy. He's not so I can understand if it was like, some fringe Republican candidate and he's like espousing these fringe ass views and CNN is quote unquote platforming him. Which, by the way, these networks platform fringe candidates all the time. They just happen to be gushy centrists. But whatever, who cares? They platform people that nobody gives a fuck about all the time. However, this dude is like, he's like got 60%. He's polling at like 60% right now for the Republican primary. He's the guy. He's the guy from actual people and voters. So like, this whole deplatforming shit is absurd. He's going to run and he has a massive base of support. You can't ignore what's actually happening. And it's, again, instead of going at Trump on the merits, they just can't do it. It's always this squishy ass pie in the sky shit, which again, nobody gives a shit about. Everybody hates every institution on earth. Possibly, I think a lot of it does have to do with how navel-gazy and self-referential you guys are and how in a bubble you guys are, that you think that actual people outside of your circumstances actually give a fuck about this shit.
Yeah. No, I think that's 100% right. I mean, I found the reaction. I mean, I used to be in the news business and a journalist and all that stuff. And like, to see journalists say that too, I was like very kind of dismayed by it. Like, I don't know, have some confidence, have some self-confidence, have some self-worth, like, know that you can, like, I don't know, handle this. It's not that there's
know that the American public can handle it.
Yeah. There's just contempt, like the little rubes, they can't be exposed. It's like the rubes can't be exposed to the bad man because they're gonna be tricked into voting him or whatever. It's like, it shows just contempt for the audience. It's why like the people hate the fucking news business. I mean, it's like, it's crazy. I mean, it was really mystifying, and I hadn't talked about it with anyone, and I was like, man, maybe I'll just like talk about it with Wos because I know you'd be on the same.
I mean, I honestly like the Trump. I ignored it. I didn't read the.
No, I didn't watch it.
Coming out of it, I didn't like pay attention. I'm like, what do you like? I understand that people like, oh, because I got like, because you know, I'm subscribed to the New Yorker and I'm subscribed to New York Mag and shit like that.
Bougie.
So well, you know,
let me get a password, dude. Sometimes I gotta, get a password, dog.
I got you. You know, my tastes are highbrow. We're not gonna apologize for that, Nando. But no, you get the emails, and of course, you know, New York Mag has the intelligentsia, and fucking the New Yorker has a bunch of overtly political writers and whatever. And one of the emails was like, I forget her name, such and such tried to fact check Trump, comma, but she couldn't. And it was like this thing of just like, oh, the second you let Trump be on TV, he just steamrolled the bags and blah and this. And it's just like, who gives a shit, bro? Everybody knows this guy's shtick, and he already lost once. And he already lost them some midterms. Like, guys, like, goddamn. So scary.
You know who that chick was, by the way? You know who that woman was? Caitlin Collins. Do you know this? So she's like the new CNN woman. She's going to be the new primetime host. You know where she was before? She was the White House correspondent for the Daily Caller, which is Tucker Carlson's.
Shit! Wow.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson's media outlet. She was at the Daily Caller for like 3 or 4 years. Yeah,
Jesus. Yeah. Okay, well that means she's fully qualified for that gig. Anyway, the Democrats continue to Democrat. Hopefully, maybe at the last minute, they'll come to their goddamn senses and do what, you know, is right here and just tell these people to go fuck themselves. But you can never actually rely upon these people to do so, especially the people that are in Biden's ear. It's just like, just the path of least resistance at all times, so long as the money. So, bro, I sent you that. Oh my God, bro. So I think the debt ceiling is what would threaten like the ability to send more military aid to Ukraine. And this is how these fuckers this is where their ingenuity is. So because the debt ceiling is threatening it, the fucking Pentagon was like, oh, nah, we found like an extra $3 billion underneath the cushion. It was like an accountant error.
Yeah.
And so, they figured out a solution. And it's just like that. They just like that, they figure it out. And, you know, the part of it, and of course, if you listen to Woke Bros or you watch Woke Bros, like, you guys are savvy enough to understand this. But, like, how this shit never gets framed is that $3 billion gets paid out to a private actor, a private entity, who then supplies the Ukraine. Like, never take that out of the equation. Like these weapons,
and they take a vig on it. At the very least, they take a vig on it. You know, like a percentage that just goes straight into their pocket. You know, like of that private entity.
Like, just never forget that an actual, you know how like people are so conscious of, I'm going to take my business elsewhere, blah, blah, blah. They're always so conscious about who's getting money for what and who, like, where people are able to get their profits from. People always think they're going to withhold their money and blah, blah, blah. It's like, why don't we have that mentality towards the weapons manufacturers and be like, why do you get to stay afloat off of our fucking money just like that? Like, your bottom line is actually all us. It's all tax-paying money to a private, like, that's what I think people need to sort of.
It's a transfer of wealth from the public, from taxpayers, to the owners of a handful of companies that just put it in their pocket.
That's all it is. And I don't think, like, we get so thoroughly propagandized on, corporate news media where it's like, we're sending this money. We're going to help these little babies in Ukraine and blah, blah, blah. When they see that $3 billion, Nando, they're thinking about these refugee people, these people been displaced by the war. They're like, oh, this $3 billion is going right to that. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's going to Lockheed, bro. It's going to Boeing.
Yeah.
It's going to the weapons manufacturers.
Yeah. No, one of the clips from the town hall, from the CNN town hall, that made liberals really, really mad was that they kept on asking Trump if he wanted Ukraine to win the war, and he wouldn't say. Well, he would say, "I want to find." His answer actually makes him sound more reasonable, and he makes the other people sound insane. Which is like, he's like, my priority would be as president to end the war in the quickest, safest way possible, essentially. And they were like, but do you want Ukraine to win the war? As if it was like, do you want the Heat or the Celtics to win in the Eastern Conference Finals? You know what I mean? Like, It's like, no, that's not how the fucking world works. Like, you don't have to, like, just because you want them to win or whatever, doesn't mean
what that is. That's World War II brain. It's this idea of there's like the Axis, the Axis of evil and the Allies. Yeah,
the good guys and the bad guys.
That's all that is. But yeah, it's just so people understand, like, it's just like, oh, the White House said there was an accounting error at the Pentagon, and just like that, Ukraine money will not be affected. Just like that. Just so, like, that's all you need to know about these fuckers in the Democratic Party. Like, whatever. That shit made me sick. Anyway, I'm moving gears, man, to happier things for me anyway. Second leg of the Champions League happened yesterday, at the Etihad. Just complete domination by Man City. To be honest, man, fucking Real just looked out of sorts. They looked shell-shocked. Like they had so much beautiful movement and passing and creativity in Madrid for the first leg that just was not present in this second match. And they got overwhelmed, and Pep was in the final. And like Man City has never won the Champions League finals. Like the only thing that's basically eluded them since the oil money came in. And so they move on and they're going to play Inter. But what I wanted to talk to you about is not so much that match, but you were the first person to explain to me like the concept of Pep always overthinking things in these crucial Champions League moments because he just wants it so fucking badly, right? And today I read an article in the Athletic, and they were and a lot of times in ways that actually make sense, there are these parallels between basketball and soccer. And in the article, the homie's talking about the gravity that Manchester City, a lot of Manchester City's best players possess. And if you pay attention to the NBA, the gravity is essentially the gravitational pull that you have towards defenders, whether you have the ball or not. Defenders perceive you as such a threat that they will not leave your side, thereby not being able to extinguish threats at other places on the field or in soccer on the pitch. And the article goes on to explain that like Grealish with his dribbling is a very magnetic force as far as the amount of defensive attention he can garner. Same thing with De Bruyne with his passing. And then, of course, fucking Haaland in the box with his finishing. Like, you just cannot leave his side. And so because people are so scared to deal with these guys in the one-on-one and they're diverting all of these resources, what it does is it creates all this massive space where Bernardo Silva's coming in and he's fucking heading in a fucking rebound where nobody's there. There's a wide open ass space because of, the defense is spread so thin because of these other threats. And what the guy said, ultimately what his point was, he's like, it's so ironic that like Pep has basically this is his best juggernaut and it's the most simplified version, whereas back in the days he had guys coming in darting in the spots spontaneously and it was this beautiful timing and it was like this whirling thing. And so that's why I wanted to get your opinion, Nando, about like what he's doing differently now as opposed to like the hyper complicated shit that he used to do.
Well, he's definitely being more conservative. And I think that one of the reasons why he's allowed to be more conservative is because he's got Haaland. I think he kind of takes his chances on like, it used to be like, Pep's teams were like high flying and creating a ton of chances and, you know what I mean? And this is not really like, Man City was the better team and completely, destroyed Madrid in the second leg. but it wasn't like this kind of spectacular run and gun foul.
They just kept creating good chances.
A vice. It was a vice that was closing in slowly, and just cranking a little tighter each time. And I remember in last year's Champions League, which was also a semifinal between Real Madrid and Manchester City. Manchester City did not know how to manage the tempo of the game, meaning like they were so amped up to be there and they were so amped up to play against Madrid, and then they go up, they take a lead, and Madrid those guys are the fucking savviest. They're the fucking, they've seen a million battles, they've been in tough situations, like nothing phases them. You know what I mean? And Man City was like, holy shit, look, we're winning, we're up, we're up against Madrid and we're winning, and Madrid is just like bam, 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 like go, and you know what I mean? Like they just in this one, and I was in the stadium in Madrid in the first leg, and I actually was quite impressed with Madrid. What? Yeah, a little humble brag. Yeah. It's no big deal. I was in the stadium. But I was quite impressed with Madrid, especially their adjustment. Ancelotti's adjustment in the second half, I thought, was one of the more brilliant tactical moves I'd seen. I mean, in the first half, Madrid defended really well and kind of neutralized Haaland completely, like just completely took him out of the game and asked basically Rodri and Stones to beat them, right? Because Guardiola has done this thing as part of his vice grip, is that he's moved up John Stones from defense into midfield, playing with three at the back for the most part of the game, and then adding this extra body in midfield that kind of always gives them a numerical superiority and allows them to kind of keep that vice closed. Madrid was like, sure, do it. We're going to take out Haaland, we're going to take out your wing players, and we're going to let those two guys try and beat us. You know what I mean? And they took a few shots from outside the box, but never really troubled Madrid. But Madrid was really struggling to get their own game going. And then what Ancelotti did, which I thought was fucking brilliant, is that he actually brought back Toni Kroos, put him in between the two defenders, and then moved Luka Modric, the other midfielder, to left back, all the way to left back. And then in transition, and when Madrid got the ball, the left back, which is Camavinga, would move to the center and completely discombobulate Man City's counterpress. And that worked really well. And I thought Madrid probably should have won that game, and they probably lost the tie by not winning that game, especially in the second half. I think Madrid had them, but they just couldn't, for a million reasons. Benzema is just nowhere near at the level that he was last year. He's hurt. Like, you can tell he's still hurt. He just doesn't look as brilliant. He's not making the.
They were just taking the ball from him yesterday, which is just like, that's not a thing that happened.
No, he's one of the best. Like, he won the Ballon d'Or last year. He was the best player in the world last year, and this year he just doesn't look at the same level. And so, like, that's probably where the tie went. But what I was impressed by at Man City is that they were patient in the first leg. They didn't get rattled. When in the past, what would happen to Man City and Pep teams is that, say Madrid punched first, Vinicius scores that great goal. You know what I mean? Right at the end of the first half, which is a really tough place to concede a goal. You're going into halftime and you're like, fuck, we've just had the possession, we've had them pinned back, and we're losing. The mentality that Pep has instilled is one of calm, and I think that that's one of the reasons why he plays with Bernardo Silva and Jack Grealish instead of Foden and Mahrez, who are more exciting players, who are more electric players, who are better scorers, who are like, but maybe they would have just like, Bernardo Silva and Jack Grealish is like, don't get phased. Like, they have the ball at their feet, they keep it going, they keep it in possession, they circle it around. They played really conservatively, and they realized that if they come out alive from the Bernabeu, they come back to the Etihad. And I think what happened was that Ancelotti had a good game plan in the first leg. It didn't really work out, but it was the right game plan. And I think he kind of out-coached Pep a little bit, marginally. Not like he didn't like outclass him or anything like that, but there was like a marginal kind of out-coaching. But Pep is like the kind of guy where, like, you do that to me once, but like now I kind of figured it out.
Yeah. And
so, like, when Ancelotti tried to do some things in like, Pep just had a plan to just completely annihilate everything Madrid was doing. You know what I mean? And again, without Benzema at the highest level, Madrid just couldn't get out. And he knew that he just had the vice grip, and he was just fucking tightening it and tightening it and tightening it and tightening it. And eventually, I mean, Courtois played the game of his life and
conceded 4 goals.
Some of those saves,
he was incredible.
Some of those saves were incredible, and like, but eventually, like, the dam was going to break because Ancelotti just had no adjustment. The same kind of adjustment that he made in the first leg, he had no answer for what Guardiola was doing. Again, I think that's where Guardiola's genius really comes in. Is that like he is a superior chess player, especially once you've already played a game. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna figure it out. And in this tie, he was just able to keep his cool. And I think that even though Haaland didn't score in both games, which like no one would have, like I'm sure I don't know what the betting markets would have said. Mm-hmm. Like if you took a bet where Haaland was going to score no goals and Man City was going to go through, he knows that he's such a threat and that he can score on anything that just kind of falls in his general vicinity, that he doesn't need to overthink like the attacking tactics.
Right. Really he doesn't have to design a game plan around trying to get him the ball. It's like, no, when he gets it, he'll finish it. He just wants to corral.
He's just going to corral you back there and then hope that something kind of happens. I mean, I'm oversimplifying it. They were doing really interesting things. I mean, one of the things that they were doing differently from the first leg, which was fucking destroying Madrid. And I think Madrid should have switched up their lineup from the first leg to the second leg. They should have done a few different things. I would have brought on Chouameni. Like, there's a million things I would have done. But one of the things that they were doing was that they were really pushing, especially Gundogan, was pushing it up from midfield and going into the box much more effectively. And that was just completely – because what Madrid was doing was they were sandwiching Haaland with their two center backs, with Militao and Alaba. And then that was leaving space between the fullbacks and the two center backs. And that's the space that Gundogan especially was kind of drifting into. Right. And he was completely undetected and unguarded, you know, and that was just kind of causing all kinds of havoc for Madrid. And they just had no adjustment for it. And they didn't have the players to really kind of, even if there was a tactical adjustment to it, like the midfield that Madrid put out, which was Kroos, Modric, and Valverde, none of those guys are elite defenders. They're all like geniuses on the ball, especially Kroos. But they're not elite. The defending is not their, you know, favorite thing to do. It's not what they were put on this earth to do. And that was really kind of causing them a lot of problems in order to cover that space around Haaland, around that kind of like, you know, just lightning rod that is just attracting all this attention, even if he's not really scoring.
Yeah, they said, like, you know, these guys just don't move as much as – it's not that they don't move at all. It's just compared to what – Pep's teams did in the past, like these guys don't move as much as these old teams. They just find the space because, you know, they got guys like Haaland now who just attract so much attention and they attack it. And the last thing I want to ask you about is, because I don't really have a sense of this, right? Any context for this, but I was listening to our podcast, Stadio at the Ringer. And
those guys are fucking smart as fuck. Those guys know their shit.
They're the best. They were talking about, I think a player for Sheffield was like, yo, Pep, you know, he came up to me after one match, was like, yo, bro, you're dope. You could play for me. And it made the guy's fucking day. You know, like, oh, shit, Pep thinks I'm nice. So what is your sense of what Pep's sort of standing in the game is at this point?
I mean, in my opinion, he's the problem with Pep is he's a fucking dick, and he's
so annoying. He's not like a nice personality.
No, he's definitely not a nice personality, and he's also just like annoying publicly. You know what I mean? Like I'm not talking about like he's like a whiny bitch. He's like fucking annoying, you know. And so like a lot of people who aren't already bought into Pep or fans of Man City or whatever, like they're constantly gunning for him because he asks for it all the time. Like you know what I mean? He's an annoying fucking guy. He's a fucking hypocrite. He's full of shit. You know, like all those things. Like so, that's like his problem, and that's why like everyone's gunning for him, and that's why no one likes to admit that Pep is the greatest coach of all time. I mean, he is clearly, in my opinion, the greatest coach of all time. I mean, his numbers are insane. If you look at his coaching career, like the amount of seasons. Say he's coached, I don't know, I think he started in Barcelona in 2007, I want to say. You know, 2008 was like when he started his coaching career. So that's been like, 15 years more or less? The number of seasons in 15 seasons that his team has been the least scored upon team in the league is something like 13. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like, it's just like, he's just like, I don't know the exact number, so don't quote me on it, but it's something like absurd like that. You know, he also like you see outside of like very pointed examples of players that didn't gel with him, you see players play the best soccer of their career under Pep. Look at a guy like Raheem Sterling. Okay.
Oh my God.
Raheem Sterling was a nice player at Liverpool.
Still playing football.
Yeah, He's a fucking disaster at Chelsea. Raheem Sterling is not a disciplined guy. He's not like a guy who's like, like a self-starter who like is like no matter what situation. He's not Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's a fucking whatever. But Pep like got him, looked at him, and was like, "This is what you have to do. This is why you're going to do it." And Raheem Sterling believed, and Raheem Sterling was unbelievable for many years under Pep. Like, and then he goes to Chelsea, and he's just like sucks. You know what I mean?
Terrible.
Like you see that all the time. Is that players know that if they play with Pep, they have a chance to change their game completely. Like just learn completely new positions. Like a guy like João Cancelo, who ended up like fighting with Pep and leaving the Bayern. João Cancelo was like not a good player. Like he's not a good player. And then all of a sudden at Man City, Pep is like, oh, you're like this hybrid fullback midfielder guy that I can invent this new position, which is like this kind of weird hybrid fullback midfielder. And all of a sudden you're going to become one of the best players in the world. And like no one would have ever predicted that fucking guy, that fucking Portuguese guy would have been anywhere near an elite player. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden Pep like finds something in him, does something creative, which is like basically invent a new position around him, and turn him into one of the best in the world. Not like few coaches do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Bernardo Silva is another guy who has just added facets to his game that, were just not ever present. And now he's just kind of this total footballer, even though he's small, even though he's slow, even though he's
so slow.
Pep has allowed him to exploit
he's so
his
skilled,
intelligence and skill.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
He's smart.
Yep. There you go. Those bastard Man City people, not Man City, Man United people in my mentions who are like, well, he's no Sir Alex. I'm like, go fuck off. Give me a break.
He's better than Sir Alex. I mean, Sir Alex was a great club leader. I mean, which also Pep is also right. Like Pep, he is the fucking. But Sir Alex was like had the personality and charisma to lead an entire institution as big as Man United with the millions of fans around the world. To be like the guy at the top and really kind of own that in a way that's like few people can do. In terms of like tactical innovations and shit like that, get out of here with Sir Alex. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Get out of here, Sir Alex.
Get out of here.
We can get out of here on that. That's our show. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you become a patron at patreon.com/countthedings. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.